then going into a negate, which is pretty cool in my opinion. And this build specifically, especially because we're trying to focus on the IP Masquerena play. I don't really think it's necessary, so one is more than enough.
Hallo.
Pendulum, of course, and then Celine.
Drop it.
Now what is going on, everybody? My name is Flexi and today I've got another video for you. But before I get into that, as you could see before the intro, that I tried to record this video before and one of my friends, I forgot that I was on Discord still, and one of my friends popped in with a cameo, if you will, just hopping into the recording real quick, really funny. Well yeah, this is a Dracoslayer deck profile post Age of Overlord. One of my esteemed viewers asked me to post a deck profile with the new Lindenite and stuff like that, which is definitely a really powerful card. Personally, I'm not gonna get it, because I kind of stopped playing competitively, so it's not really worth like getting a 70-buck staple for a deck that I'm not gonna play at a tournament. But yeah, I'll just quickly give you an overview of the deck list, talk about how this changed post AGOV, and then show also a sample combo, which there's really like, there's so many variants you can play of Dracoslayers at this point. You really have basically free choice of whatever you want to end on. But I'm gonna show you one specific combo, and then I'm just gonna talk about the alternatives on the end board later on. But for now, the Dracoslayers, I mean, there's nothing really worth mentioning here. 3 Majesty, Bambuku, Ignis, Dynamite. Dynamite's Charge is an interesting one maybe, because you can usually you don't have to play it at all, because Dynamite is like not the most high priority card to have in your opening hand. I like playing it at 1 at least to search, and also because it can generate your follow-up. Sometimes I even like playing it at 2 because it's essentially +2, so that's kind of cool, but it doesn't like super help kickstart your combos, so it's kind of iffy. Astrograph, of course, important. 3 lesser, 1 master. Sometimes I'm thinking about playing 2 master. I don't really think it's necessary though. It's a very cool, like, it's important to play at 1 for sure, especially because it's a searchable low scale with a Revolution Dragon, and sometimes if you don't get like Majesty access, or if it gets removed or whatever, you might need a low scale, so this is pretty cool. Or if you have to remove your Majesty, Beyond gets Ash, so you can't search the Seer, which is a low scale, then you have a Revolution Dragon in hand, you can search the Master to still be able to Pendulum Summon. Really important, keep that in mind. 3 Revolution, of course. 3 Draco Face-Off. Draco Face-Off is a really cool card, and as you can see, I stopped playing the Super Heavy engine, which I used to praise a lot, but I've kind of grown out of it, especially now that I'm not trying to play competitively anymore. The Super Heavy engine is kind of iffy, and I kind of grew out of it. Draco Face-Off, however, is insane because it's an extender, potentially, or just gives you Majesty access and the scale and stuff like that. You have to play this 1 brick, but it doesn't really matter. And then a more casual or like less optimal build, I play 2 Lust Elector, and then I play the Masterpiece as well, which Ignis can search with his scale effect. So you have an Omni-Negate in theme, which is pretty cool. Masterpiece is just Masterpiece, right? So 2 Joker, you can play 3 if you want, but I don't like having too many normal summons in the deck, and I think Bambuku is a superior one, so I'm playing 3 and 2. It's still dope though, it searches Revolution or the Seer or whatever. Then the Vortex package, of course, the 1 Sky Iris. Sloth, if you don't want to play Seal or Sloth, then you can definitely take those out. They're not important at all. I just thought I'd give a little more variety in the extra deck, or like in terms of what kind of stuff you can end on, but it's definitely not mandatory. And I also, I'm not playing it in my casual build, so this is just there for the heck of it. And then 8 non-engine cards. You can also bump it up to 42 and play 9, or take some of this out and play like, I don't know, take the 2 of out, add a 3rd Joker, and then play 40 or something like that. And also, about the specific cards here, I don't really know what's good in the meta right now in terms of non-engine. I've kind of lost my read on the meta, but I just included these as generic, like, overall good options. You can remove these and add in whatever you want. And you can also take out non-engine completely and play just full-on gas with maybe a couple of Magicians and stuff. But for now, this seems like a solid list to me personally. And the extra deck, most of it is pretty standard as well, like 1 Fusion, 2 Synchro, 1 Xyz. I like to play 2 Xyz sometimes, because you can sometimes like turbo it out, add 2 in the end phase, and especially with Utopic Draco Future is really cool, because you can like go +2 in the end phase, summon 2 monsters from the extra deck, and then turn the Xyz into a negate, which is pretty dope. But in this build specifically, I chose not to do that. Beyond, of course, and then Celine. You might notice that I'm not playing Exceed, and before I tested it, I thought that Exceed would be insane in this deck, but after playing a couple test hands, I noticed that the windows where you have 2 scales on field and you have a monster in graveyard that you can summon with Exceed rarely overlap in this specific deck or in the combos that I've been playing. So Celine is better because you can more easily set up 3 spell counters, so you can summon Majesty later on from the graveyard, over being able to summon a Pendulum from graveyard with Exceed the Pendulum. Of course, if there's a different combo line that enables you to do so, then I think Exceed is better because it also adds one from the extra deck to your hand as follow-up, for example. So if possible, then play Exceed, but depending on your combo line, you always have to like consider it on a case-by-case basis. In this case, I think Celine is better. Vortex, the Omni Negate, of course, with the package. Hope Harbinger. He's not part of the main combo line right now, but I do like him a lot. He's so free in Dracoslayers, and especially if you get interrupted, sometimes you can just end on a Hope Harbinger and Appaloosa, which is 4 negates, and he protects the Apple as well, so that's wild. And then Masquerade and Little Knight, this is the core piece of the deck and of the end board right now, and also kind of the point of the video, right? Little Knight is just an insane card. IP Masquerade turns, like, enables it pretty easily, and there's not much more to say here. Seal is just an alternative. Sometimes you can end on Masquerade plus Seal plus something else, like Vortex and maybe Ziliantis or something. And then you have another bounce in addition to that, plus maybe an extra deck lock or something. You can also play other cards instead of Sloth, right? You can also, is it Ether, the Evil Empowering Dragon, which is a banish on summon, you can play that. There's Odd Eyes Persona Dragon, I think, which is a quick effect negate. Yeah, target a monster on the field that was special summon from the extra deck, negate its effects. There's different targets for this for sure if you don't want to play Sloth. Keep that in mind. But yeah, so Seal, decent card, especially in Dracoslayers, so free. Zelantis also enables you to have a free extra monster zone by resetting the entire board, and then you can just use 2 dragon monsters and go into Seal. Zelantis is definitely a Dracoslayer staple. Appaloosa is just here for the heck of it. I don't usually make it, and I kind of moved away from it as well. Same as Access Code. Xcode is just here for the generic OTK stuff, but especially with the last card, Singularity. In some combo lines, you can end on stuff like Seal, IP, Singularity, Vortex, which is not as consistent, or like a more consistent version would be like IP, Singularity, Vortex, and something like that. And in those cases, you don't even need Access Code, because once you bounce, like, especially if you bounce 3 cards with Singularity, he gains 1500 attack, so he's at 5000, which is the same as Access Code Talker, and then if you bounce something again, he gains even more attack points, so you really don't need an Access Code Talker if you end on Singularity. And yeah, that's about it for the deck list, basically. Kind of standard Dracoslayer list, I would say. The only variety I think here is most importantly in the extra deck, depending on what kind of stuff you want to end on. And this could also be depending on your local meta, like if there's more trap heavy decks and maybe you want to move away from the extra deck lock and stuff like that. But that's all something that you have to take a look at yourself. And now I'm going to show you a sample combo, so I'll be right back. This is one like basic 2-card combo with 1 discard, of course, like 2.5 card, I guess. Here I'm just activating this so it doesn't annoy me to chain it every time. Basic Dracoslayer beginning, like trigger the Ignis to summon from deck, this being an extender, searching a low skill, stuff like that. The main variety here, like the combo lines often look the same, or feel the same maybe, but the variety is in the end board. So you can choose whether you want to end on Singularity, Vortex, or another Omni Negate, which usually you can make multiple Omni Negates, but it's kind of difficult. You have to go out of your way and maybe include even other extra deck cards, and sometimes it's just too much, like you have to use 10 or 11 extra deck slots to include multiple Omni Negates plus other stuff. So it's kind of annoying here. The Seer play, of course, adding the Revolution back, summoning from deck, the Dissolver to make the Vortex. Here also you can see why Celine, in my opinion, is better, because at this point you don't have anything in your graveyard that can summon with Exceed the Pendulum or Celine as well, so neither of them can summon something right now. But since Celine only requires you to have 3 spell counters on field, her summon effect is going to be live whenever you have a spellcaster in graveyard, which Majesty is, of course, whereas Exceed the Pendulum requires you to have 2 scales. And in this case, I don't have anything. Now I could go out of my way and like get a scale into my hand so I can summon something with Exceed the Pendulum. The other problem is Exceed the Pendulum takes a Pendulum monster's material, like 2 effect monsters, 2+ effect monsters, including a Pendulum monster. And sometimes I want to make Celine with, like, as you can see in this replay earlier, with Beyond and Ignister, for example, and I can't do that, so I have to use one of the other materials that I would otherwise use for example, Magister, to go into Beyond or Exceed, sorry, and that's then kind of like, you're just ruining your combo by having to do that. Instead, you can just make Celine, generate 3 spell counters, which you always have with the field spell, and then just perform your combo regularly. So I think right now that Celine is better for Dracoslayers than Exceed the Pendulum is. But of course it still depends on the combo. Then I make Magister here, summon from the extra deck, Celine. This is also important that I summon Majesty from the deck with Ignister in this case, so I can use it as Xyz material and set up the Celine. And now I have 2 monsters, I summon the Fusion, trigger the Dynamite, add follow-up, and now Zelantis, he summons from graveyard, and now I reset the entire board. And this is also really funny, like almost every time I activate Zelantis effect, I forget that he can also summon face down, and then I accidentally summon the Vortex in face down position, which of course is stupid because you lose your Omni Negate. But yeah, and now I have 5 monsters. I think I go into IP Masquerena now with those 2, yeah, right, and then he summons from deck the Master, and I go into Seal. And this is basically where the combo ends, so I have a follow-up here, ideally, and also I forgot to show this in the replay, but in the end phase you add a Pendulum monster with the Magister effect that you triggered on summon. So you can either add a Revolution Dragon to summon the Ignister back, you can also add the Revolution Dragon to search a Luster Pendulum, you can add a Luster Pendulum directly or an Ignis to have the ideal 2-card combo. You can add a Joker to search your, to be a normal summon that searches, stuff like that. You really have infinite possibilities, and this is already you have an Omni Negate, a bounce, you get a banish on summon, and then once your opponent activates a card or effect, you get another banish, as well as the extra deck lock of the Heavenly Spheres, which is also protected by the Little Knight, for example, or you can also summon the Ether or the Odd Eyes Persona Dragon, stuff like that. There are different targets for that. So yeah, this is 4 interruptions, pretty simple. You could also use the Zealantis with a couple other monsters and turn it into a Singularity, so you end on Seal Singularity Vortex or IP Singularity Vortex. In some cases, but that's not a 2-card combo anymore, you can end on Seal IP Singularity Vortex and still with a card in hand, but that's for this you have to use 2 or 3 or 4 cards even, which isn't exactly possible every time. So don't focus your entire extra deck on combos like that. You can, if you notice that your opponent doesn't have any hand traps and you have a full gas hand, then you can definitely go for stuff like that, but don't make it your main priority. I think this board is already good enough, though this does struggle against trap decks heavily, so especially Labyrinth. But yeah, this is Dracoslayers post AGOV, just a quick overview. This is also, I haven't put too much thought into it specifically because I'm not playing competitively anymore, and now I don't have a huge interest in optimizing the deck any longer. I'm going to focus more on less competitive and more casual, pure builds. But this is just a quick attempt to see what is possible with the Little Knight, for example. If you have any other suggestions, then definitely leave them in the comments. I love looking at them, and maybe there's even something I can work on to improve the deck even more so. If you enjoyed the video, then definitely leave a like, and if you want to see more Pendulum content, then subscribe to the channel. And other than that, guys, see you next time.